All right, guys. Episode 9, fill in the blank. Me and Summers talked for about an hour before this, so I'm not sure what we're going to talk about on the podcast, but it's episode 9, so we're going to figure it out. We're going to start this shit off. You ain't got beef.
But you got worms in your Wellington.
Facts.
You got beef, but there's worms in your Wellington. I'll put a hole in your skull and extract your skeleton. Oh my God, said a word twice.
All right, cool. I hit record. We're on it. Summers, what's up, my man?
What's going on, bro?
Dude, thank you so much for hopping on, bro. I'm glad that we figured this out. For those of you who obviously didn't know because we weren't recording, Summers couldn't figure out how to get on Zoom, and then now we can actually see him. So
These
thank
are
you for
lies.
that. Yeah.
I figured out how to get on Zoom. We had bad connections, so don't listen to his lies already.
I'm setting the context for the podcast. Summers was going to be the blurriest guest of all time, and he couldn't handle that, so we just went with this. Now we look much better.
Is it better like this or like this?
Oh, that's much better. Keep it like that.
All right, but all right.
If your arm gets tired, then just switch arms.
No, we'll figure it out.
All right, let's hop into this, bro. I'm
Yeah,
super psyched for this one, bro. This is like, for everybody who's wondering what the hell the podcast is about, the podcast in itself is kind of like us just sharing stories. I'm interviewing a bunch of dope people, post-editing it, and then giving it out to you guys so that you can find something, discover something for yourself in it. This episode is going to be a mixture of that and then selfishly me trying to promote just worm shit. Like, we're going to get into the stories about, like, what is a worm? Everybody is always asking, what the hell does a worm mean? There's people that I literally, like, meet and be like, yo, what's up, worm? They don't even question it anymore because they're kind of like, oh, whatever, it's Rob. Like, he just says worm shit. So I've taken the credit for the worm when the OG worm is actually right here, guys. Like, this is the one. I'm going to shut up on this one as much as I can. We'll see what happens. But Summers, for the 18 people that listen to this, can you please introduce yourself to everybody? And kind of, the way I've been doing it is telling people to give, like, their comic book origin story. But, like, I want you to give me, like, the real intro as to who is Steve Summers.
All right.
Oh, shit. We lost you.
Guess ever. I just wanted to get my
soundbite.
My charger.
I'm going to use that. It's all right. Don't worry about it, guys. He couldn't sit still, so he's on now. Are you good?
No, the question is, who am I? Where did I come from? Right? Is that what you're saying?
Where did you grow out of? No, I want, like, the comic book story origin of, like, Steve Summers. Like, that's what I want.
So, yeah, I mean, okay, Steve Summers is basically the regular white kid growing up in the suburbs, going to, public school and, middle class America and right on the border of the wealthy and the people living, on the border of poverty, and right in the middle. I've seen the best and the worst, and growing into public school and having friends like, Rob and I met when we were like 14, 15.
Yeah. We've been friends for we've been friends for 18 years.
I know, it's nuts. And I hope you got Nessie coming on one of these
100%.
days, because I mean, he's what ties you and I together, truthfully. And so in my little suburban neighborhood where I grew up, I had friends like everybody else in their neighborhoods, and one of them was Mike Nessie, who a little plug here for him, who owns I guess he's co-owner of Mike's Barbershop in Lincroft. Go get your hair cut when the salons open up.
Shout out. I'm going to put the link right here so you guys can go. It's the only place you should go if you live in Lincroft, Tinton Falls,
Middletown area.
It's right next to a Dairy Queen. Get your ice cream, get your hair cut, go.
He'll shave you, everything.
All right, dude, let's switch in. So when I told people that you were coming on, AKA I put one Instagram post out, there's questions. People have questions for you. Like I said before, you're known as the plant man. You're known as the worm. You're known as a lot of things. And there's questions out here. I'm going to do rapid fire. There's a whopping 3. And we've got an hour and 15 minutes already.
And it's probably well, you can edit out a lot of stuff.
Oh yeah, of course.
Please
Yeah.
do. It's probably people that I all know, right?
Yeah. So yeah. But I'm not gonna
See?
give the names. I'm just gonna ask the questions. All right. So here we go. So what's the best part of your day?
The best part of my day.
Oh, the wine got in there.
The best part of the day is when when I'm getting out of like when I'm kind of shutting down for the day.
Mm-hmm.
When I busted my ass doing a bunch of stuff and I'm getting out of the shower and like I'm just going into like sleep mode and like I'm just relaxing, watching a show or reading and just mellowing out. That's like the best part of my day.
Good.
Basically.
What are you into right now? Like that, what's that book or what's that show that you're putting on to, whether it's decompress or escape? What is that right now for you?
Like as of like right now or as of last night?
Whenever, yeah.
I've been actually watching The Last Dance, the Michael Jordan, the Bulls thing.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we could talk about that for a long time. I mean, I'm torn a little bit. But something really funny I should bring up though. I'm really pissed at Verizon.
Why?
Because I watched the last episode first by accident.
What? Why? Wait, you saw episode 10 before you saw? Didn't you start? They were doing it every Sunday. Didn't you start the first Sunday? You waited?
I just started just like the other day, right? So
so you waited. You didn't get it when it first came out.
Whatever. I've been the last. You have no idea when this thing came out. When this thing came out, first of all, it was like when the market's crashing. My work is like going crazy, and
God.
I just couldn't even focus. I was like, I kept telling myself, I'm going to save this Michael Jordan Last Dance thing for when I have a little bit more time. Yep. But whatever. So it came up a couple days ago. I started it, and I pull it up. I was just sitting down to eat. I like cracked a drink or something. I was excited to watch. I click on the ESPN app through Verizon or whatever, and you know how it shows the episodes on the bottom. It's just like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. It automatically went down, right? And I just hit OK, and I said play. I didn't even look what episode it said because I thought it would start in order, just like everything else would start, right? So it opens up, it starts up, and it's like Game 5, 1998, like blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, okay, this is how they're going to start it, blah, blah, blah.
No, that was dude, there was so much buildup. My favorite episodes.
I'm going back now. I'm on episode 4 now. So.
You saw the Dennis Rodman ones? What'd you think about those?
Oh yeah, I love those. I loved it. I love seeing that. I love seeing those sides of people, the behind the scenes stuff that nobody knows, because I never knew what the hell was wrong, what was going on with Dennis Rodman. Like I didn't know why he was hopping on there, and I remember his hair even. That when he had the 3 on there for Scottie Pippen, but I didn't even know it was a
Me
3.
Too. I didn't know that.
I didn't know
cheetah.
It was
I thought it was like a cheetah thing.
I thought it was a cheetah thing also. So I had no idea all this drama was going on.
When Jordan showed up to Vegas, when Dennis went away for his vacation or whatever, Jordan shows up at the hotel room with a private plane. It's like, yo, let's go to practice right now. Like, get out of here. And they show Rodman at the practice in his pajamas. Like, that's just history, bro. It's so wild.
It's nuts. I read something today, though. I heard Scottie Pippen is pretty pissed about how everything came out. And it does portray him like almost like first of all, he got played by his salary and everything.
Well, let's talk about that for a second, right? Because there's the counter to that, where we got to remember this is early. I mean, yes, hindsight, that was a terrible contract to sign. But when you saw where Scottie came from, right? Dad being paralyzed, brother being paralyzed, he had so many people on his back. He needed, let's say he gets hurt 4 games in, he's screwed. So he took that not high salary for a long period of time. I mean, dude, he had to die on his own sword. You know what I mean? But Scottie Pippen, I mean, Scottie Pippen's a legend, bro. Come on.
I agree with that. But he should have got a bone thrown to him when he was doing what he was doing.
Yeah, the
because
owner seemed a little cold. I think the owner seemed a little cold when they mentioned that too.
Honestly, I blame fucking Jerry Krause even more than the owner, because the owner's you got to think about it this way, the hierarchy, right?
Yeah.
The owner is paying the GM to make all these decisions, right?
Yeah, but Jerry was a legend. I mean, as much as they shit on Jerry, Jerry was a legend. And when you get into the later episodes, yes,
no, I get it. Look, I get it. I give him a lot of credit for putting together the team. I mean, if it wasn't for Jerry, Phil Jackson would have never been the coach.
Yes, 100%. Yep.
And then if you go back a couple episodes, Michael Jordan, he was so against change. He didn't want what's his name, Doug, the coach before.
Oh yeah. Because that guy was all
Collins.
all Jordan.
He didn't want Doug. He was like, no, he loved Doug Collins. He goes, don't get rid of Doug Collins. I don't trust Phil Jackson, right?
Because Doug wanted to put the ball in Jordan's hands, and Phil
Jackson wanted to do the triangle thing that they were talking about, right?
Jesus.
But then he fell in love with working for Phil Jackson. Then he was like, later on, he says, I won't work for anybody else but Phil Jackson.
I won't play. I won't play for anybody. All right. So, I mean, dude, anyway, it's whole thing. I mean, I'm into it too. All right. So,
who the hell asked that question?
Everything stays. My sources stay anonymous.
What excites me during my day?
No, what's the best part of your day?
Oh, yeah.
All right. So here's the next one, right? This is definitely a deeper one. What's your favorite plant?
Oh man, for a long time, this specific oak tree was my favorite tree plant. The white oak. It's called the white oak.
White oak. And
it has a very distinct leaf of oak leaf. Every part of the leaf is rounded. So if you put this white oak tree leaf next to a red oak or a swamp oak, any other type of oak tree, is very distinct. And I could point this tree out anywhere once I see it. And it's got a distinct
We'll put it in the edit. I'll put it in the edit. Just go.
It's just was like, it's a very strong tree, and it's just a very nice looking mature tree, and I just for some reason loved it. But actually, to tell you the truth, right now, I think this is always going to change my life, but right now my favorite plant is this plant called catmint, which is a perennial. Catmint, yeah. And you could put that on the back on the edit, or link to it, whatever you do with the podcast. And the reason why I love this plant is because it's super versatile and it's like tried and true. You can plant it in crap soil. You can plant it without any water, and it takes off. And it's got a beautiful lavender like flower to it. And it blooms for a long time in the spring through the summer. You can prune it back and it blooms again. It's just a great plant. And I try to put it in a lot of my designs.
Yeah.
And almost 9 times out of 10, my clients like it. And the only ones who don't like it are ones who want a very formal English or French style kind of garden that's just like, pruned hedges and annual flowers.
Yeah. The standard catalog one. But the people who want to get a little creative will go for that. I love that. All right. Yeah. Here's the real one, bro. You ready? What plant would you be if you were a plant?
What plant would I be if I was a plant? I would be. I mean, that's
tough.
It's tough. I mean, I would be like any.
We ask the hard questions here at Fill in the Blank.
I would be a native. I would be any type of. I would be like a white oak tree. Or like a sweet gum tree. Like these are trees that are native trees that
Explain.
It's native to New Jersey. These trees will grow strong and have deep roots and will adapt. There's so many traits that can you can just relate that to other parts of life. I would definitely be a big strong tree, just like to lock that down. Because at the core of it, a tree is also a perennial, comes back every single year. And if you're a native tree, you have way better chance of survival versus a palm tree where you're just going to be every year up here, unless you live in Florida. If I was in Florida, I could be a palm tree. I don't live in Florida. So
I love that. Oh
that's
my
pretty much my
God.
answer to that.
I love that. All right, let's see what other ones we got here. We got into what you're into. We got what life looks like right now. We got into the kid stuff. We got into the wedding stuff. We got into that. I mean, there's nothing really else I got, man. This is it. Like, fuck. Let me think. So, let's go into the question, right? Shh, close that here.
Well, I feel like you didn't, you know what? Before you get to the fill in the blank, I don't think you clarified the whole origin of the worm.
Oh, true.
Isn't that the
Oh
whole
my
point of all
God.
this?
Oh my. All right. So we made people watch the entire thing to get here. All right. So guys, this is it. Like, this is the whole reason you're watching this entire thing. This might even be its own separate episode, to be
And
honest
you
with
almost forgot about it.
I almost literally just forgot about it. It wasn't even in my notes. I had notes for this. It wasn't even in my notes. All right. So there's something that I do, right? I mean, even my Instagram handle, a lot of the content that I put out is worm related. I think for me, and I think everybody has their own definition of worm. That's kind of like what I like about it, is that for me, the worm is somebody, or the worm itself and the animal is something that eats dirt and then puts out compost, which is a metaphor for you can literally eat shit and then make beauty out of it. And I think that can apply to people's situations, people's health. Like, there's so many things that could apply to that. And that's where I think everybody can be a worm, right? And I think that the worms need to be highlighted. Worms need to be celebrated because they literally give their entire lives just to make the soil and the earth better. And
isn't that amazing?
And that is the unlock. Like, that's the reason, like, I don't even say, hey, bro, anymore. I say, hey, worm. Like, that's a compliment to you. And I don't think people get that. I think people think it's like a funny thing, but like, it's actually deep meaning. So, dude, I mean, you were the one I stole it from, first off, right? Copyright, Steve Summers, because you're the OG worm, because you were the first person to really talk about worms. So talk to me about it, right? Let's take it back. Like, talk to me about the first time you learned about it, how you brought it to where it is right now.
Yeah, so I mean, you brought worm to a whole nother level.
Stratosphere, we could say.
When I was focused on worms, it was purely research and scientific, and I was interested in the microbial aspects of what a worm can do, and for the soil and for plants. It all goes back to the plants, right?
Mm-hmm.
So my whole thing was like, I was trying to figure out a way. I was trying to understand, how do you make the soil better when you have crappy soil? And
which is a big problem in New Jersey, no?
Oh yeah, big time. Especially, I mean, that's a whole nother conversation. You can talk about Superfund contaminated sites, like, and just recycling and recycle waste and all that stuff. But like that's where it all came from. You know, when it was, I want to say it was right before I graduated. No, it was after I graduated. So it had to have been 2011, summer 2011, 2012. I was working at Tinton Woods, and I was experimenting with some vegetable gardening in pots and planters there at work, and because I was living with you. I was living in your basement, right? You remember after our graduation?
Mm-hmm.
Going through.
Oh man, this is
under
my own roof. The worms were created.
No, well, they weren't in your house. They weren't in your house. So I mean, this was like I was going through a hard time.
It was a really tough time.
You know, I just lost my father that April, and it was a lot to finish school. So I was craving I just wanted to keep my mind occupied constantly. So it was just like, I wanted to read, and I just wanted to study other things. And I was doing everything I could to just like better myself as a landscape architect and just build knowledge and stuff. And as a gardener at the core, because I knew gardening and being interested in plants is what got me to landscape architecture. So I was trying to really stay true to that. And so I started doing some research. You know what? This is the other thing. I did a research report for a biology course that I took that was on, it was a microbial science course. and it was all about microbes in the soil and stuff like that. And I did like a research paper, and it was all about earthworms and about their castings. And this was like at the peak of like my dad's sickness. So it's like I almost bailed on everything. And I remember I talked to my professor and I said, you know, this is like the only thing I'm interested to do for my thesis, like whatever. And he's like, that's the best topic that anybody in this entire class has come up with. He's like, everybody else is like lame stuff. And I don't know if he was just trying to be nice, but he's like, his thing was like, this is the most out of the box. Like, you're not following like what I was talking about, but this is so on point. You don't even know how on point it is. Right.
He was psyched about it.
He was so psyched about it. And like, I just wrote it like super like layman like, and like I did a ton of research, but it was very layman, my whole research paper. And like I had a bunch of sources and stuff, but like I just blew through that thing. It was like a 10-page paper that I blew through in like a weekend. It wasn't even that long, but like I just wrote it the way that I felt from whatever I researched, and I cited people, and I just was like, I got from point A to point B in 10 pages, and I got an A+ on the paper. But I took all that. I was so into it. By the time I was done doing that research, I was like, I wanted to like have a worm, like an actual worm farm, like a production farm myself. But anyway, I'm digressing. I'm going deep into this. But the point is, at the time, you know, we were hanging out and I was working or whatever, and I was starting this worm farm in a tray system at my job in the basement of the clubhouse where I worked. So it was like this 4-tier system, and you feed it, you know, cardboard, paper, eggshells, food waste, whatever, leaves. And like I ordered 1,000 worms online from this company called Uncle Jim's Worms. The little plug right there for him.
I know Uncle Jim. He was on Oprah.
No way.
Yeah, Uncle Jim's was on Oprah. I remember that because when this whole worm thing started, I thought, oh, we should sell worms. And I looked up the competition, and Uncle Jim's was number one. And then I saw that he was on Oprah's thing, and I'm like, that's going to be a massive L for me.
So it's so funny. I was telling my mom about this, you know, at the time back in 2012, like how I was getting into worms. And she goes, I got to really get you to talk to my cousin. Her cousin in Wisconsin, you know, his business is cows. And more specifically, his most profitable part of his business is that he sells cow like eggs and sperm and stuff, and so that people can, you know, raise, you know, do in vitro or whatever, and because it's all about the breed. If you raise a cow that's producing so much milk or so much meat, like somebody else somewhere else wants that type of cow. You could sell that DNA. It's insane. I mean, this guy makes buku bucks doing that. And he lives like a farmer. You would never think the guy's rich.
The pedigree of cows.
So anyway, he was in that industry, so he knew all these other farms of everything. And he told my mom that I should get in contact with this guy who has a huge worm farm that makes a ton of money in like India. So this guy reached out to that guy. He sent me a shirt from his company and like a catalog and all this crap. I have it somewhere.
You still have the shirt?
I have, but it's like some worm company. I forget. But
Can
I looked
you please
it up.
Send me a picture of it. I'm gonna remake that and just send it to everybody.
I gotta find it. It's buried somewhere. Whoa. I might have got rid of it.
Okay, continue.
But anyway, the point is, I was interested in it, and you and I were hanging out, and what I believe happened was a night of drinking, and you like heard me talk about worms, probably telling a story. It became a thing. You became focused on it, that I was like interested in worms. It was like you were making fun of me. I don't care.
Yeah, it wasn't a knock, yeah.
But no, I mean, at the time, I don't think you were knocking me. It was just like, it was a way to be like, oh, you were playing with worms. Like it was just a way of you to just like pick at me, you know, because we picked at each other. We're friends. And it's like, and then I think you just started calling me Worm because you knew I was into it with these worms.
Yeah.
And it became just a name you called for me for a long time, which was so weird. I found out later in life that my dad was called a worm as a kid.
What?
Yeah. My uncles told me this because he could get out of, when they would wrestle with him, he would wiggle out of every wrestling move, so they called him the Worm.
Oh my
God. But my dad hated it. He hated it. He hated being called the Worm. Like, he hated it because they made fun of him as, like, because he was skinny and he could wiggle out of a situation. So, like,
oh my God, I love that, because my entire thing around it and why I share it, obviously because of the metaphor, and obviously because it's like, it's about redefining the word. It's like, if we can make, like, your dad thinking has a negative connotation, if we can make for the future the word worm or the verb, whatever you want to say,
well, that's the thing,
redefine it into this thing of beauty, it's completely transforming the way that people, their relationship with worms.
Well, that's what I was going to say. The problem with the word worm,
I see it as an opportunity.
Well, you see it as an opportunity because you think differently. You're thinking about it, and you've been using that word for so long. But you go up to a stranger in the street, and you say, "What does a worm mean to you? What does the word worm mean to you?" Most people are going to say, like,
bug.
They'll be either disgusted or they'll be like, ew, like, I don't know. It just means like a slimy, like, whatever. The problem is the word is not that attractive, unfortunately. And it's just what comes behind it, I feel like. It's just like people immediately, most people think of the soil as dirt and not soil, which is a whole nother conversation in itself.
Yeah,
because
it is.
You talk to a soil scientist, and he'll say, "I don't know what dirt is. Dirt doesn't exist. Dirt is a made-up word because there are different types of soil.
Got it.
Dirt is just generalizing a pile of crap, essentially.
Yeah. Wow.
But there's different types of soil, and so, like, true soil scientists will be like, "Don't ever call anything dirt in front of me because I won't listen to you."
Yeah. I call it like the foundation. Like, I literally, like, I mean, obviously I've had years to, like, think about worms and stuff like that in the way that I'd like to define it. And I think it has a beautiful connotation in my mind. And that's what I share about it. So people get a high level from me. But, like, I think that if I were to actually get educated on the granularity of, there are different types of worms, there are different types of soil. And I think that could be applied to the different types of humans. That could be applied to the different types of countries. And I think that worms are such a unifying thing in my mind. That's how I view them. And maybe that's my perspective. Maybe that's who I am. Maybe I'm weird about it. But I think that when I explain it to people at my level, they get it. And maybe some of them just nod because they're like, okay, this kid's weird. But some of them actually get it. And it happens over time. I haven't just been saying, yo, worm, or hey, worm, or talking about worm content for 5 days. I've been talking about it for over 5 years, like, well over 5 years. So, like, and to the point now where it's funny that there's people that I'll meet that come to me that are friends of friends that'll come to me at the bar or whatever. And he's like, oh, what's up, worm? Like, you're the worm guy, or you're the, like, he calls you worm, and it's funny because when it's put that way, when somebody else has told them, oh, just call him worm, it's funny, or call him worm just because he likes worms. Like, they don't come at it like, oh, he's slimy. They just think of that as like, oh, like, it's like saying bro. That to me is fascinating. And again, I haven't surveyed the entire world. I've surveyed New York City and New Jersey. But, like, I just think that there's something there. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, look, it's your thing. Clearly, you've been rolling with it for a while.
Long time.
And if you want to roll with it, keep rolling with it. I mean, it's definitely like a one of those words where, I mean, what you're, like, trying to create is, well, not even trying. What you're doing is, like, with that word is you're
redefining it,
creating, like, a paradigm shift with the definition of that word. I mean, it takes to redefine a word is not an easy task.
No.
It's like, you're putting, you look up worm in the definition, and you've probably done this before. I mean, I know you've like,
you've seen
photoshopped it and put your own definition.
I've made my own dictionary definition of it.
Yeah, but, like, what is the real definition
Webster's.
in the dictionary of worm? Like, what does it actually say? And it'll probably say, like, what do they call it? Whatever
species or whatever thing.
Yeah, exactly. Not, they'll just say it's this type of insect or something.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It's no easy task. It's like trying to say I'm going to turn bro into bra, like the surfers did or whatever. Or bruh.
Well, I mean,
it's like
I really think anything's. I not to sound cheesy, but I do think anything's possible. I think that just through the transformations that I've seen, and I think that humans will adapt the more things become repetitive and routine. Right? It's a little bit of a psychology thing.
Look, I mean,
because,
think about. Yeah.
Go ahead. I was going to say that, I talk a lot with the different like colleagues that I have that are like in similar sales that I am. Right. And I ask them kind of, what are some of the things that you try when you're trying to either present to a client in a new way, present a new idea, or just trying to present yourself in a way that you don't come off as a vendor, but you come off, as an opportunity for them. And there's a lot of different tactics that people use, whether it's the clothes they use, whether it's the mannerisms they have, whether it's copying some of the language that the other person is using. I have a little bit of fun with it. I'm a strange character, right? But I'll use whether it's a swear word or whether it's a slang word like dude or bro. And there's been client meetings that I've been in where I've talked about, the redefinition of worm. And to them, some of them, they're like, you're crazy. And then to some of them, they're like, that's interesting. I've never thought of it that way. So like, it's part of my dialogue. It's part of my testing. How open-minded is this person? So there's so many different, I'm a different character, right? The psychology of what I do in this, I'm such a communicator, an over communicator, and I'm so intrigued by the other person that my job just fulfills me in that way. And obviously I sell stuff and make money. That's cool. But like the other part of it is really, really interesting, man. That's why like I take this worm stuff into so many different categories because I have no fear. I don't care. Like, what are they going to do? Like,
I mean, why not? Look, I definitely think there's possibility for it to be, where you've been building it into this brand.
Do you think one day there'll be a statue of you with a worm next to you?
No chance.
What if I mean, dude, honestly, like, I might just get competitive and actually just commission it myself one day. Not now, but one day.
The thing is, like, I don't really feel like I'm the like you try to credit me for the worm. I mean, I have partial credit, but all I did was plant the seed for you. All I did was just kind of expose the world of worms to you.
Yeah.
You took it to another level on your own. and that's fine. I could have, anybody could have, people do this, people find inspiration. And at the time you didn't even know it. You created something from it when you didn't even know it was anything.
Yeah. And nothing.
You were just calling everybody everybody and their mother. You were calling him a worm. And people were like,
as a compliment.
Well, people don't know that. When you're going over to a dinner party at your best friend's house and you're calling him a worm, and his parents and his uncle, they're looking at him like, what the heck is he talking about? Why is he calling you worm? It's
man. But now
so you took it to that level. I didn't do that. I don't deserve a statue of anything. You're creating this brand behind it, and I support you, and I help, or I don't help anything, but I'm saying I support you, and when you want to know any scientific stuff about worms, I help fill you in.
Well, you're doing it right now. You're helping me right now, right? Because I think that this whole podcast, this video thing that we're doing, which will break up into different things, it's a stream, right? I don't get to have this conversation often with other people, especially people like you who are educated on a different level, who, like, I didn't know they called your dad that. Like, I didn't, like, there's certain just context that I get from other people. And that's exactly why I want to have them on this podcast, because for me, it's just valuable and it's information. It's how I learn. But for other people, it's like they get to understand worm from a different level, right? So like maybe there's certain people that learn or will be inspired by worm just by this conversation, right? Or maybe there's certain people that think that these guys should have tinfoil hats and like different.
Hey, if anything, I hope that some people who are watching this just have a different appreciation, right?
Yeah.
So, when people, you see you're in the
Yes.
garden, Julie and I, I bust her chops a lot of times. She says, I'll help you plant flowers. I said, you're going to get scared when there's a worm or there's something in the soil. And she goes, well, I won't touch that. I won't do that. You'll have to do that. And I said, what do you mean? I was like, if you're going to be a gardener, you got to be able to deal with the worms. I was like, it's part of being a gardener and a part of working with the land. And,
100%.
and at the core of that, that's life. I mean,
Yeah.
the land, what comes out of the land is us. Without the land, there's no us.
And without the worms, there is no fertile soil.
Without the worms, there's no good soil, and there's no so much stuff. I mean, the history of worms though is amazing. Yeah. I mean, that if you follow
Darwin went nuts on worms.
Darwin
went crazy?
This is an amazing fact that I know that I've read. Worms aren't even native to this country. Worms were like European and came over here. I mean, they probably were all connected when this was all one big land. What do they call it? Pangea or whatever it was. And then there was all these earthquakes and we got separated from Europe and Africa and South America. But worms are like a European thing, kind of like deer are. Deer aren't native to America, believe that or not.
So the worms were transplanted here.
Kind of, in a way, or at least the majority of them. And then they just grew like crazy. But there's a lot of interesting history about worms. And yeah, Darwin was obsessed with them. Darwin would go out in the middle of the night with like a candle, and he would like tiptoe around, and he would document however he would document, I guess, writing in a pad under candlelight. He had the patience to sit there so close to the soil, he could see worms taking bits and pieces of leaves from the grass into the soil, pulling it down and eating it, pulling it down. It was amazing. Like, who does that? Who would ever do that nowadays? Nobody. Dude. If they are, you're like Bill Gates, or like you're like somebody who's so like into that. Yeah. I'm sure there's research scientists doing that stuff.
Microfocus.
Now it's all done in a lab.
Are they I don't want to get into it. You're still there. All right, let's wrap this up. Catherine's already saying I'm too loud and it's too late. So we are going to wrap. We're gonna wrap this up. Dude, we almost went 2 hours. This is amazing.
You're gonna have to cut so much of this stuff.
But it's gonna be the best cutting I've ever done. So the way we end this podcast, the way we end this podcast every time is we ask people the same question, right? It's discovering the blank in you by listening to the blank in them. So Steve Summers, fill in the blank.
So discovering the strengths in you. Wait, what's the second part again?
By listening
to the fears in others.
I love that.
Right? If that makes sense to you. And that could mean a lot of things, but what it like means to me is like, for example, there's something that you do that you don't even realize that you do in a confident way. It's just something you're like, all right, I do this. I have to do this. I have to get this done. Whereas opposed to somebody else would be like, man, I'm not smart enough for that. I don't know how to figure that out. I'm just going to hire somebody else to do it, blah, blah, blah. And then that's when, I think a lot of people don't give themselves enough credit, right? And constantly are focusing on what they don't have or the skills that they don't have or what somebody else has. And they forget about what they do have, And I think everybody needs a little bit of a reminder of that, is that we all have our strengths. We all have our weaknesses. And a lot of times you can find inspiration through other people's weaknesses. And you say, and then you can maybe help that person, right? By embracing that and seeing, okay, I'm actually strong in a spot where you're weak. And I didn't realize you were weak at that. But listen, I can help you. And like, you just have to do it.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
like just a quick example of that is like doing your taxes, right? I'm a big proponent of doing your own taxes. And the last person that did my taxes is your father. And that was
Really?
before I graduated college. Yes. Wow. And when I don't know, I think it was 2010 was the last time your dad did my taxes. 2011, I did my taxes and all throughout. So I've been doing my taxes on my own for almost 10 years. But I remember like five or more years ago, maybe more than that. I just remember like my sister, she wasn't doing her own taxes and she was like making excuses. And she was telling me she was paying H&R Block $150. And I said, why do you do that? I was like, you can do it on TurboTax for like $20. And she's like, well, I don't know how to do that. And I'm self-employed, so I got to fill out more stuff and do more things. And I was just like, do more things, fill out more stuff. I was like, you're like 30 years old. Like, get your shit together here. I was like, give me your stuff. I'll show you how to do it. And like, I kind of gave her a little like brotherly love and just pushed her in the direction. And the next year she told me, she goes, I signed up for TurboTax. I did it and it worked out fine. I saved myself $130. You know what I mean? And it was like, and I'm the younger brother.
Yeah. Hey, but hey, anybody can do that for anybody. I think that, you know, what you heard in her was that maybe she was afraid to make a mistake, or maybe she was just, oh, well, you know, I don't know it. I don't want to blah, blah, blah. But like you said, hey, take it into your own hands. Like you can do it.
Yeah.
Like there's no reason you can't. Just take the time, have the patience.
Yeah.
And
yeah,
it's huge.
I think,
it's huge.
and that's just one example.
Yeah.
And as you know, that can go into so many things in life.
Oh, yeah. What I'm starting to notice is that even doing this right on the re-listens and the re-watches is my level of listening. And when somebody says that to me, it's like the strength in you by the weaknesses in others or the fear in others. It's kind of like the way I listen to people now is different than it was 10 years ago. What I hear out of it, what I don't hear out of it, how I take myself out of it, right? And it's kind of like my opinions on it. It's just listening to who they are out of nothing, not adding anything to it. It's a very, very powerful thing, because then you're actually helping the person and you're giving them the opportunity to either help you or you help them, and you're able to contribute. And you're not coming from a place of, you know, okay, well, when you say that, my auto response says this. No. And I think that's really helped me with connection. That's helped me with a lot of different things in my life. It's definitely helped my career a lot. Listening to what people are actually saying to me, not what my preconceived filter is telling them. And I think it's a very, very powerful tool to have in life. All right.
Totally.
That's how we're going to end it. That was beautiful. Thank you. I love you. And 3, 2,